Hello, everyone. Welcome to Better Talks. So, today we are here to share knowledge and insight. I would like our special guest to introduce himself to the audience.
Hey everybody, my name is Lindsay Tsang. I am a executive coach with my company Happy Hires. So I am actually a therapist, but I do that only 2 days of the week now, and the rest of the time I'm building my coaching practice. What got me into this is that I've experienced before, and I think many people resonate with this, the difference between being under good leadership and under bad leadership. And a lot of my clients actually would have come to me because of bad leadership and toxic leadership at work. And that's why they're on stress leave and so forth. And so that's part of the motivation for what got me into leadership coaching. I've also I'm almost completing. I'm only a month or two away from getting my PhD in organizational psychology. So the specializations in leadership and in positive psychology. So yeah, that's what brings me here.
Wow. Just a brief question. How do you transition from being a therapist into coaching?
Yeah, well, it's not really that big of a difference, right? We're
Mm.
still working with people's motivations in their states of their bodies, but also in their behaviors. Now, coaching is much more forward facing. So whereas therapy, I would go back more into, the past and helping you sort through thoughts. Therapy is not, coaching is just not as much focused on the past, it's more forward facing. So I would say that it's kind of like an extension of what I've already been doing.
Um, can you briefly tell the audience what the concept of the heart of prioritized leadership? Because this is the first time I'm coming across that term, prioritize leadership, and it's a very interesting, and I'm curious to learn more.
Yes. Okay, so first of all, it's not my idea. So I've
Oh,
I've
okay.
been trained in the prioritized leader. So it is by Brandon Schaefer. I'm certified to use his material. So
Okay.
the prioritized leader is, I mean, it's mostly a modularized training program with an assessment. And so the whole premise behind it is that every leader has to have these five priorities, but they also have to have them in the right order. And when you don't have them in the right order, you would feel the difference, right? So the five priorities, starting with number one, is purpose. Right? You start with purpose. You move on. Number two is people. So you take care of your people, and then number three is the pace of your company. And then number four is perception. They're just using P words here, but number four, perception, is really talking about innovation. And then finally, number five is the profit. And so you would see a lot of times when people are tempted to use, so let's say, I think the easiest temptation is profit, right? We put that
Yeah.
further up on the scale of priorities than the other ones. But right away, everyone would feel that, right?
So the four piece is it five piece or four
Five
piece?
piece, yeah.
Are they in chronological order or?
Yes, yeah. Um, I mean, everything flows out of purpose.
Mm-mm. Because what I'm trying to get is so everything is in order. You start with purpose,
Hmm.
and then you have profit, the last P.
Yes, yeah. And
Interesting.
yeah, and when we're doing these assessments with clients, right? We are not necessarily going through everything in order. We might say what's on fire the most right now. And
Okay.
maybe we work on that first, but in the ideal order, it would be to start with purpose and then move your way down. Yeah.
Interesting. Because most times as entrepreneurs, we always our priority is just profit. We
Oh
don't
yeah.
know the reason why we are into business. We don't motivate and develop our team.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned perception. So we just straight go into profit, how much money I can make from this startup. And we don't have any sense of meaning in what we're doing. And then after we have achieved the money, the finances, and then what's the point of operating your business? You got the money that you want.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so here's a way to put it, right? Like I think if you're looking for a legacy company, you're looking for something that has
Mhm.
staying power, then you need to have these five in the right order, right? I mean,
Trust.
you can create a profit, right? And that could, rise and fall really quickly. Okay, this is a example. Like my parents, They had like a mini extension built out from their backyard,
Okay.
and I would say the company they chose was profit first, right? They wanted to make some quick bucks. It was poor quality, and so they might make it for a little while by getting new jobs, but they're not going to get referrals. Like, so their purpose was not first, their profit was first, and that's going to bite them in the end. They might be successful in the short term, but never in the long term.
Because your values ties with your purpose. When people
Yeah,
see that you're not just offering service or goods, but there's
yeah.
something beyond that.
Well, as I think about it right now, when I was younger, I was reading Good to Great, right? By Jim Collins, and
Yeah.
one of the things that he talks about is like, people's almost number one, right? Like
Yes,
when
yes.
you get the right people in the right places, then you can talk about vision, right? So yeah, there could
Mhm.
be some, people is okay. So the classic psychological definition of leadership is the interactions between a leader and a follower to move towards a vision. So you don't have leadership without people, right?
Yes,
so,
yes.
so yes, you have to have people, the two kind of spectrums that we're working with. I don't know if spectrum's the right word. Axes is, you want to make sure that people are effective and accountable, right?
Yes.
That they're moving forward, they're executing. You have to be executing to be a good leader, but also at the same time, you need to be building good relationships, with the leader and the followers with one another. Because if you're not doing that, then this is also a really stressful culture that will eventually fall apart. So you have to have both, right? And so that's the whole people module, the second portion of this model.
So then how do you balance relationship and achieving results? Because most times that's the difference between a manager and a leader. A manager focuses on results, getting the results,
Yeah,
whereas a leader
yeah,
wants to build a relationship with people, values people, because John C. Maxwell says that everything rises and falls on leadership.
yeah.
So how do you balance relationship and results?
Ooh, I mean, it is difficult, isn't it? I mean, I think about it. Just today, I was talking with somebody about parenting styles, and it's very similar, right?
Mm.
You have the parents who are authoritarians. They are the rules, the discipliner, and then you have the parents who are very permissive. And we know that, in studies, both of those are not as powerful as when you're both at the same time. So we're not talking about flip flopping between the two, because that's really confusing. Sometimes I'm your friend and sometimes I'm your taskmaster. But it's, yeah, right. But it's actually, having that kind of relationship where you're really both at the same time, right? You command the greater good of the. That's what transformational leadership is about, right? The greater good of the company. We're going to give our all together. I'll lead by example, but I'm going to care about you, right? Another model that I really do like is the servant leadership model, which is the prioritization of each individual, right? The needs of the individuals, maybe even above of the organization sometimes. So you know, there's this. There was a company I worked with that used this model, and an example of how that looks like is they're willing to invest in our education, even though they say that, I know you could eventually leave the company, and this is going to be a credential for you that you can use forever, right?
Yeah.
But because we're trying to develop you as a person and we care for you, we're willing to invest in that, right? And so those kind of companies are usually better at retention anyway. Right.
I mean, depending on how you treat your employees will determine how loyal they will be to your company.
Yeah.
If you treat people anyhow, they're not gonna be loyal to you. Even when it comes to their productivity will decrease
Yeah.
because they don't feel
100%.
like their boss actually cares about their well-being, you know?
Yeah. If you Gallup surveys. They are the ones. They're kind of the employee engagement experts,
Mm.
right, in the field. And one of their articles, they're talking about the number one activity that a leader can do to help their followers be engaged. And they
Yes.
said that the number one activity is just to have a 15-minute conversation with them per week, meaningful conversation.
Wow.
Yeah,
Interesting. Is it
right.
about anything?
Yeah, as long as there's some form of meaning attached to it, meaningfulness, I guess, some vitality to it, I guess. But yeah, no, it's not that hard, I guess, to have both, right? You have the discipline of keeping people accountable, setting goals together, and following up on them. But on the other hand, it doesn't take that much. Like, you're not having long lunches with everybody every week, right? But if I can do 15 minutes even with each one just once a week, that drastically increases their engagement. So that, I think that's, I'm trying to answer that question, right? Of how do you do both?
You're absolutely right in terms of balancing both, because you don't want to be on the extreme end where it's all about relationship. At the end of the day, you're not focusing on getting results. You need the result, you need the profit, you need people to be accountable, productive,
Yeah, yeah, right.
Interesting.
And that's why those are the first two priorities, right? You got your purpose, you got your direction, you got your values, and then you have the right people who have a healthy relationship in a culture that is good, but who are also effective at what they do. And you've already got half the half the games done. You've already got this really good thing set up, and now you just need to focus on the third, fourth, and fifth on that list of priorities.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
purpose and people. Wow, that's key.
Yeah.
Interesting. So now let's get into the strategic planning.
I just like it that it's a little bit different, right? Most people are used to the SWOT
Yes.
analysis when they're doing strategic planning.
Mm.
What I've come across in my studies is this model called Appreciative Inquiry. It's another type of generative AI. Okay,
Yeah.
another type, not the computer type. But the whole idea is that language matters, and what kind of questions you ask matter as well. It focuses you differently, and so in appreciative inquiry, there's a bent towards really just focusing on what's going really, really well, and then using that as a springboard to move forward. And so what's really helpful about that is that it brings a lot of collaboration and excitement to the discussion, and it allows people to dream a little bit bigger and buy into the vision a little bit more. So the SOAR model is, I actually would switch two of the letters, to be honest, but
Oh, okay.
but
What does the letter stands for? I don't know. Like I'm new
yeah,
to this.
yeah. So the letters stand for strength,
Hmm?
opportunities,
Hmm.
aspirations, and results. Yeah. So the SWOT is strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats,
Yes.
right? Which
Yes.
I don't think the SOAR model is trying to get rid of. We're not trying to ignore that there are such things as weaknesses or threats in the company, but
Mm.
we're just wanting to really focus on the positive core that makes the company really come alive and unique, and then kind of go off from there, right? So it's one of my friends from long ago, he was in a volleyball team, and his coach used to tell him this. He says that good athletes work on weaknesses, but great athletes work on strengths,
Mm.
right? And so, and I'm gonna use a quote here. It's on my website. I don't always remember it word for word, but it's by Peter Drucker.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, and he basically says that the job of the leader is to align the strengths of the organization so well that the weaknesses become irrelevant,
That's interesting.
right? Um, yeah, and so that's the you start off with having the discussion with everyone. What's making you feel the most alive working here? What are the stories of those who are proud in their proudest moments, their best moments, serving in the mission that they're doing? You hear that from your leadership team, And really, if you have the resources for it or the time for it, you want to make this a trickle down conversation with every stakeholder, including clients and customers too. And once you start gathering some of this data, you can start with the leadership, start forming together the positive core. These are a few statements that we can say is what makes us completely unique and strong, right? And so that garners a lot of pride, a lot of excitement about the company. And then that's the first one, and you move on to, now I would actually do aspirations before opportunities, but the SOAR model is someone else uses that for appreciative inquiry. Okay, so aspirations is the dreaming part, right? This is now when you say, like, given this, then future wise, this is everyone dreaming about the vision, right? What can we be? What can we become, right? And so everyone starts now having those conversations, and then eventually you can move on to, okay, given the dream, then what's the opportunities at hand? What are the initiatives we have that we can start doing to move towards those aspirations? Results is basically when you start doing what most people do, right? You put in the KPIs, you put in the important indicators that we're succeeding, and then the to-do list and the action points that we need to start doing to move towards them. Yeah.
So you move aspiration before opportunities. And
it just doesn't sound as good as SOAR though.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Strength, opportunity, aspiration, and results.
Results, yeah.
Oh, and all of these are positive elements to strategic planning. There's no threat, there's no weakness. The focus is, everything is just positive.
Yeah.
You build on your strength.
Yeah.
You allow your employees to dream, as you said, to aspire to become bigger and better, and then you find opportunities and seize them, and then now the results will come.
And I don't remember the exact statistic, but there are lots of. This is a model that's studied quite a bit in the organizational psychology world, right? And but you can see that there was a handful of companies that use this kind of model, as opposed to the more traditional model, and when you measure their the success of their change management, they would have a stronger one or more positive one than the traditional method. So it is backed by evidence and science too.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time I'm really like hearing this. The SOAR is not here to replace the SWOT analysis, right?
Yeah, no, I think one of the things, it's a misconception that like it means we completely ignore bad things that happen. But actually, when we talk about the strength part, we're talking more about the most alive moments, and sometimes that could happen in the middle of a conflict, right? So we're trying to draw some of that out. We're just using better questions to draw out the positive core.
It's good to be realistic, because at the end of the day, we live in a real world, right? We all have, businesses do have weaknesses. They have limitations. They have lack.
Yes.
And they also have threats. You understand? Innovation that disrupts, what's going on, right?
Right.
So we have to be considerate with regards to knowing our weakness, because I believe that one way you can see yourself as somebody who is strong is knowing your weakness, knowing yourself, knowing what you are capable of, what you're not capable of. So I don't think some businesses will have the time to identify, okay, this is what we're good at, this is not what we're good at. Yes, you identify what you're good at, and then you maximize that. Like you said, you put all your resources on that. And then what you're not good at, yes, you can dismiss it for a while, but if that's that's part of your vision and that's something that you really want to do, then you just have to build it up to become a strength and assets in your company.
Yeah, an analogy just came up in my mind. So when I teach people assertive communication, right? One of the rules is that when it comes to, so we talk about, this is how I'm feeling about the situation, and this is what I need, right? And one of the rules I would put around that is, try not to tell them what they need to stop doing. Try to tell them what they need to start doing instead, because that's going to resonate better with them. They're more likely to have something positive to focus towards instead of something negative to stop. So something, a quick example, like, somebody who's on their phone too much, right? And you say, you need to stop being on your phone, right? Then that's likely going to make, someone feel shameful. They're likely to make them feel not, or they might feel angry, right? But if you tell them, hey, it would be so important if you can, have more of your presence and attention around the home when you're at dinner, right? Then it's a positive need. And it's like, oh yeah, you know what? I hear you on that and I need to get better at it, right? So it's more likely to draw me towards a positive action than the other. So we're not ignoring the threats, but we're looking at the opportunities within it.
We see problems as opportunities. Problems exist for us as human beings to utilize our creative capacity to resolve them. You know, so don't, like you said, don't see problems as threats. See problems as opportunities to capitalize on. Right? Have a
100%.
positive
Yeah,
mindset that any problem that arises in your company, you have what it takes, and that problem can be can be converted into a product, into a service. It could
that's
not be
right.
a
Yeah,
problem for the company, but it could be a problem that you see in the environment that you're operating in. It could be a problem with with your customers, your suppliers, that you can tap into and capitalize it. You know what I mean?
100%. Like, yeah, like I said, it's not about denying the the weaknesses, right? It's only just about asking the better questions to move you, further ahead. That's really what the SOAR model is, or the appreciative inquiry is about.
And
Hmm.
I really like the aspiration thing because most times, so is this aspiration focuses on the individual or the company in itself?
I mean, this is a very flexible model, so you could use it individually for sure, right?
Okay, okay,
But you
interesting.
can, yeah, in any situation you can use it. But in an organizational level, absolutely, right? So let's say you have, um, a leadership team, middle managers, and then frontline. Um, if you wanted to do a really comprehensive use of this, you can do it on one whole weekend, or you can do it in phases, right? But you can do it in one whole weekend where you have all these roundtables, and everyone is talking, sharing all the strength stories. Everyone's sharing all the dream stories, and then they're filtering that up to the next level and sharing it, and then they're filtering up into the leadership level, and then they're taking all this data and sharing it and making creatives around it,
Mm.
and then eventually honing down on, based on all that we're hearing, this is a really big trend or theme. There's these 3, 4, or 5, major themes of strengths here or aspirations here that we are aiming to become like. Um, and then there's a lot of energy behind it because now it's collaborative. Everyone had a say or had a story to share to get to this point. And so there's much more buy-in into that kind of vision. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that so you allow your employees to communicate their strengths, their aspirations, and then you combine all of these strengths and aspiration for the common good.
Process itself is transforming the organization,
Mm, mm.
right? Because of all the dialogue that's happening, right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, people are talking back and forth. Everyone's talking about the strongest and best moments,
Mm,
as an employee, or as an organization, what we've seen us do that I was really proud of or to be a part of, right?
mm.
And so as they're having these conversations, they're already in real time being shaped, right, by this process. And then you move on to, we just talked all about our strengths. Let's talk about our dreams, right? And now everyone's dreaming ahead. And so again, you're having buy-in for the future of the company because now I'm a part of that discussion, right? So that's so it's a nice model because it's not top down, right?
So it's not just limited to the management team, but it's also open to everybody that works there.
Yeah, the more people talking about it, the better. And then you have to start gathering the themes, right?
Wow, wow,
Yeah.
I
Which
really
with
like.
AI is becoming easier.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, you just record the transcripts and just put it in.
Especially Zoom meetings, right?
Yeah.
Before we dismiss, kindly share with us your organization. What do you do? What type of services do you offer to the audience? And how can they reach out to you in case they're interested, they want to know more about what you do?
Yeah, thank you. So my organization is happyhires.ca, and that's where you can best find me. I do three different types of things. We either do strategic planning, you know, I can come in and be very involved in that process, or there's executive coaching. So if anything, especially along the 5 Ps that we talked about, the priorities, we can assess you and find out what's on fire, and then we can work on that, right? Um, if you go to my website, you can actually do a quick diagnostic to get yourself some numbers to start off with. And if you want to deep dive into it, then just call me up from there, and we can work on, if you're qualified, we can work on giving you the assessment for free, which I can only do a couple per month because of time, right? So yeah, and on top of that, I do a little bit of job benchmarking. So we do, you know, one of my clients had a senior member retiring. So what we did was got the team together, created this role clarity around future wise, what do they need to do to fill this role, and then we did a bunch of assessments. And so now we built a collaborative benchmark so that all of their new candidates can be measured against it to see how close they are to the kind of person or the kind of motivation we're looking for. Yeah, so we have that, or team workshops. That'd be another thing too, just like talking about how to communicate and get to know everyone, how to motivate and encourage each other. So those are the different services I have.